You wake before dawn. The air is cold, damp, and full of smoke. Somewhere nearby, wood crackles in a hearth that never truly goes out. A faint glow of orange light breathes through the cracks of the tavern shutters, and outside, a rooster calls into the misty morning. Welcome to the 17th century, child. A world of muddy lanes, horse dung, and church bells, where the smell of ale and sweat is stronger than perfume, and the tavern is the beating heart of every town. The world beyond this door is ruled by men in wigs and powdered collars, by kings and landlords, and by the church. But inside these timber walls, where the floors groan under the weight of boots and barrels, another kingdom lives and breathes. A kingdom of laughter, hunger, and thirst. And this morning, it's yours. You rise from the straw-stuffed mattress in the corner, a patch of floor behind the kitchen hearth where the heat is kind enough to visit, if not stay. Your back aches. You slept in your linen shift, the same one you've worn for 3 days. There's no time for modesty. The tavern never truly sleeps, only dozes like an old dog. You stretch, rub your eyes, and already smell yesterday's ale, stale, sour, sticky on the floorboards. There's a trace of roast mutton in the air too, though that's more memory than meal now. You hear it then, a deep creak as the tavern owner, Mistress Hobb, stirs above. Her boots hit the boards and the rafter dust falls like pale morning snow. "Up, girl," she'll shout soon enough, and you'll be ready. You wrap a shawl around your shoulders and start your morning work, sweeping ashes, stirring the embers, coaxing the coals back to life. The tavern hearth is a living creature. Feed it well, and it'll feed you back. Let it die, and the day starts cold and cruel. As the fire wakes, so does the tavern. The sign outside, the Fox and Lantern, sways in the breeze, its paint chipped, its chain creaking like an old sailor's bones. The door groans open, and in comes the chill of morning fog, carrying the smell of wet earth and horse leather from the stables. In the half-light, the tavern looks like a relic from another age. The low-beamed ceiling is black with smoke. The walls, dark oak, are stained with ale and time. Tankards hang from hooks, pewter glinting like dull silver. Tables bear the scars of knives and coins. Every mark tells a story, a quarrel, a wager, a love confessed too loudly. You sweep, you wipe, and you breathe it in. This is your world now. By the time the sun stretches across the crooked rooftops, the town begins to wake. Outside, carts rattle over cobblestones. A bell tolls from the church spire, calling the pious, though more than a few will wander here instead. You hear the baker shouting his morning prices, the blacksmith's hammer striking rhythm like a drum. Inside, you fill the first buckets from the well and set them by the kitchen door. You grind barley for ale, fetch onions from the cellar, and chase the gray cat from the butter again. She hisses, tail high. You hiss back. It's a small war, fought daily, and neither side has yet won. Mistress Hobb appears at last, broad of shoulder, sharp of tongue, her apron stained with last night's stew, and her eyes miss nothing. "Quick now," she barks. "Men'll be wanting their morning drink." You nod, already at work. The first customers arrive not long after. 2 carters in wool coats, mud-caked to the knees.
They've come for a jug of small beer, weak ale, barely stronger than water, but cleaner and safer than the well. One of them grins at you with a few teeth missing. "Morning, lass," he says. You smile, because you must. You pour, you serve, and they slap copper pennies on the counter. One of them short, as always. You learn to count quick and complain quiet. A soldier follows, red coat faded, musket slung over his shoulder. He smells of gunpowder and sweat. He orders strong ale, and you pour it careful, head just right. He watches you work, eyes a little too long. You've learned not to meet that gaze. Mistress Hobb says, "Men look, it's the way of things. Just keep the mugs full and your head down." So you do.
By midday, the tavern is a living beast again. The fire roars, mugs clatter, voices rise and fall in argument and song. The air is thick, tobacco smoke swirling with the steam of stew and sweat. You weave through the crowd like a ghost with a tray, dodging elbows and spilled ale. You know the rhythm of it, when to smile, when to duck, when to hide behind the barrel. There's laughter, coarse, good-hearted, until it isn't. A drunk reaches out for your arm. You slip away before he can catch it. Mistress Hobb sees and gives him a look that could sour milk. He mutters, drains his cup, and staggers out into the daylight. You breathe again. The day stretches on, endless chores, endless noise. You wash tankards in cold water that numbs your fingers. You scrub tables, sweep again. You lift heavy casks with help from the brewer's boy, your hands raw with rope burn. Still, there's a strange satisfaction to it, a rhythm, a purpose. You belong here, even if the world says you shouldn't. Outside the tavern, the streets are ruled by men, guilds, markets, magistrates. A woman alone draws whispers or worse. But inside these smoky walls, you are part of the heartbeat. You carry stories, laughter, and secrets from table to table. You hear them all. The merchant bragging of his cargo, the sailor whispering of foreign ports, the thief who swears he's innocent as he pockets the spoon. They speak freely around you, as if you're invisible. But you listen. You always listen. And sometimes you learn things worth knowing. As the light fades toward evening, a golden haze fills the tavern. The beams glow amber, the smoke curls slow and thick. The last of the bread is gone, the stew pot nearly scraped clean. You step outside for a breath of cool air. The sky above is bruised with purple clouds, and the street lanterns flicker to life, one by one. For a moment, you stand there, hair damp with sweat, hands smelling of ale, and you look out at the world. This town is small, but full of life. Every soul in it will pass through this tavern at least once, to drink, to laugh, to weep, to forget. And you, though they'll never remember your name, will serve them all. You return inside as the night crowd begins to gather. Mistress Hobb nods toward the bar. She says, "Keep the mugs coming, and mind the constable. He's fond of a free pint." You laugh softly and return to your post. The night hums again, louder, wilder. Someone starts a song. off-key but full of spirit. You join in under your breath. The tune is old, about sailors and sweethearts, and the walls seem to know it too. In the corner, an old man tells stories to whoever will listen, tales of pirates and plagues, of kings and ghosts. You listen between pores, and though you've heard them before, they still make the hair rise on your neck. Hours pass. The laughter swells, then fades. One by one, the drinkers stumble out into the night, their songs echoing down the alley. You wipe the tables, douse the lanterns, and let the last embers of the fire settle into a red glow. The tavern breathes again, quiet, heavy, at peace. You lean on the counter and stretch your sore arms. There's a coin or two in your pocket, your wage for the day. Enough for bread, perhaps, or a bit of cloth. Not much, but it's yours. Above, Mistress Hobbs' footsteps fade as she climbs to her bed. The cat curls near the hearth, purring faintly. Outside, the rain begins again, soft at first, then steady. You kneel beside the fire, watching the flames flicker low. You think of the hundreds who've sat here, kings and beggars alike, and wonder if your life will ever stretch beyond these smoky walls. But that thought passes. Tomorrow will come, and with it more mugs, more laughter, more stories. You'll wake again before dawn, sweep, serve, smile, because this is your world, hard, loud, and alive. And though few will ever thank you, the tavern could not live without you. You are not a queen, nor a lady. You own no land, no gold, no title. But tonight, as the fire dies and the rain drums on the roof, this world, this little world of ale and smoke, belongs to you. You are one of them now, a tavern maid.
The mornings come early in our world. Before the sun crests the church steeple, I'm already awake, if you could call what I do waking. Truth is, I never sleep deep. The crackle of the dying fire, the scurry of rats near the flour sacks, the damp chill that seeps through the floorboards, they keep me halfway in dreams, halfway in toil. I lie there for a moment in the gray half-light, wrapped in a rough wool blanket that smells of smoke and salt, listening to the creak of the old timbers and the soft breath of the tavern settling after the night's storm of voices. By the time the first rooster calls, my bones already ache. I rise, pull on my linen shift, my thick woolen gown, and the apron that has known too many stains to count. My arms are strong now, thick from lifting casks and hauling water. Mistress Hobbs says I've the look of a brewer more than a maid, and I take that as no insult. The hearth must be stoked first. The coals are low and sullen after the night, so I crouch down, poke them to life, feed them with kindling, and whisper a curse when the smoke bites my eyes. A tavern's heart is its fire, no warmth, no welcome. The chimney smokes, the iron crackles, and soon the room fills with that first blessed heat. Then the work begins in earnest. The floors are swept, or as much as they can be, for rushes hide as much filth as they cover. The old straw must be gathered, replaced with new cuttings from the meadow when we can get them. The air smells of damp earth, ale, and ashes.
I scrub the long oak tables with vinegar and salt, my knuckles red and raw by the time the light through the windows turns gold. By 6, the first travelers are stirring. They come down from the rooms above, merchants mostly, or soldiers who've drunk too much to remember their own names. I set bread to toast on the iron hooks, ladle out porridge thickened with yesterday's broth, and pour the first mugs of weak ale. Coffee? We have none of that fancy stuff. Not here. Here it's ale or nothing. Sometimes they nod thanks. Often they don't. Mistress Hobb keeps her sharp eye on all of us. She's a woman of iron, quick to scold, slow to praise. "Mind the mugs, girl," she says, as though I hadn't handled hundreds. "And see the barrels don't run low before noon." She's right, though. If there's one thing worse than a drunk, it's a thirsty drunk. By mid-morning, my back burns like a forge fire. My arms are slick with sweat, my hands stung with splinters. But there's a rhythm to it, a kind of grim song in the scraping of pewter, the clink of coins, the hiss of the hearth. And the talk begins. Oh, the talk. That's the lifeblood of the tavern, not the ale, not the stew, but the gossip that passes quicker than coin. Soldiers speak of battles far south, farmers speak of crops and curses, and the merchants, well, they speak of themselves. I've learned more listening to men who never saw me than I ever did from any priest or teacher. They talk loud, they drink louder, and they look at me as though I'm part of the furniture, something to serve, to laugh at, to forget. And that's fine. You learn to move unseen. You learn when to speak, when to smile, when to keep your tongue pressed to your teeth and your head bowed. Around noon, the tavern roars alive. The smell of stew fills the air. Beef if we're lucky, barley and turnip if not. The pot hangs above the fire, its surface shimmering with fat. I stir with a wooden ladle nearly as tall as my arm, wiping sweat from my brow with my sleeve.
The men crowd the benches, slamming mugs and shouting for more. Coins clink on the counter, dull pennies, never silver. I pour, carry, clean, repeat. Hours blur. The air grows thick with pipe smoke and laughter. Someone spills ale on my apron. I don't even flinch. Mistress Hobb wades in, snapping orders, cuffing the lazy. By the time the sun dips low, my shoulders feel carved from stone. The heat of the day fades, and the chill creeps in again. The crowd thickens. Locals now, farmhands with dirt still on their boots, fishermen reeking of salt and weed. They call me lass or wench, and sometimes worse. I've learned to turn a sharp tongue when I must, and to laugh it off when I can. The good ones, they mean no harm. They'll toss a kind word, maybe a slice of bread, sometimes a song. The bad ones, you spot them soon enough. The eyes too long, the hand too free. I've had to break a jug or two across a wandering wrist. Mistress Hobb doesn't mind. Better that than trouble later. After sundown, the tavern changes. The smoke thickens, the laughter deepens, dice clatter, fiddles play. A man sings a bawdy song about a sailor's bride and earns a cheer. I keep to my work, weaving through the crowd, balancing trays, dodging elbows. Then comes the real labor. Cleaning what can be cleaned, hiding what can't.
scrubbing the tables, stacking the mugs, rolling the barrels back to the cellar. Sometimes I catch a moment's peace when the door opens to the night and a breath of cold air slides in. The moonlight spills over the floorboards, silver against the warmth of the fire. For a heartbeat, it's almost beautiful. Sometimes I wonder what my life might have been if I'd been born to a different hand. A wife, perhaps, or a weaver. But then, who would I be without the tavern's noise? Without the laughter and smoke and the clatter of the mugs? It's a hard life, yes, but it's mine. When the last man stumbles out, when the benches lie empty, Mistress Hob and I share the final silence. She counts the coins, I scrub the last pewter clean. We don't talk much, we've no words left. But sometimes she'll nod, just once, and that's enough to make the day worth bearing. I sleep in the small loft above the kitchen, if you can call it that. The heat from the hearth rises up, wrapping me like a blanket. The smell of wood smoke and old stew clings to everything. I close my eyes and listen to the faint hum of the dying fire. My hands still ache, my feet throb, and yet there's a strange comfort in it. Because tomorrow I'll do it all again. The fire, the floor, the mugs, the men. And in that endless rhythm, the rising and falling of work and day and night, I find something close to peace. Not joy, perhaps, but steadiness, a kind of belonging. The tavern is no grand palace. It is smoke and splinters, noise and need. But it breathes, it remembers, it keeps us, those of us with nowhere else to go, alive in its firelight. I am part of it, and it is part of me.
When the doors of the tavern swung open each dusk, the world seemed to pour in. Sailors with salt still crusted in their beards, traders jingling coins like promises, and farmhands smelling of earth and sweat. The tavern was more than a place to drink. It was a living stage where every soul had a part to play. The woman at its heart, 27, strong of arm and steadied of spirit, moved between them like a quiet conductor. With a nod here, a sharp word there, she kept the chaos in rhythm. Tankards clattered, dice rolled, and laughter rose and fell like the tide. She learned that in a tavern, a man's tongue loosened faster than his purse. They told stories of storms survived, of lovers lost, of kings and rebellions whispered in the dark. She listened, always listening, gathering fragments of the world she'd never see. The walls around her knew everything, the birth of a rumor, the death of a friendship, and the spark of a rebellion yet unnamed. Sometimes the tavern turned dangerous. A misheard insult, a spilled drink, and suddenly fists would fly. The air would fill with curses and fear, with the sound of chairs breaking and pride bleeding. Yet she stood firm, unflinching, her voice rising above the noise like a bell through smoke. Enough, she'd cry, and somehow they'd listen. There was a strength in her that no man dared test twice. Still, danger wasn't always loud. Sometimes it came soft, in the glance that lingered too long,
in the drunk who mistook her kindness for invitation. A woman among men in the 16th century walked a thin line between respect and ruin. Too cold, and she'd lose their favor. Too warm, and she'd lose her name. Every night was a balance between survival and pride. But she took pride nonetheless. The tavern was hers as much as any man's. She made it run, its fire, its laughter, its very soul. The town's heart beat through its door, and she kept it alive with her hands, her sweat, and her silence. There were moments after the last man stumbled home, and the candles had burned low, when she'd stand alone amid the wreckage of mugs and crumbs, her reflection caught in a puddle of ale. In that silence, she'd feel both weary and unbreakable. A woman unseen by history, but holding up a piece of it all the same. Because the tavern was more than timber and ale. It was the echo of every secret spoken too loudly, every coin exchanged beneath the table, and every laugh that masked a broken heart. And she, the woman behind the bar, was its keeper, its witness, its protector, its quiet queen.
Running a tavern in the 16th century wasn't just about pouring ale. It was a delicate dance of fire, flower, and fortune. Before dawn, when the streets still slept and the mist clung to the cobbles, she was already at work. The 27-year-old woman, broad of shoulder, steady of hand, would lift the heavy lids from the barrels, check the yeast, and breathe in the scent of the day's brew, earthy, sharp, alive. Ale was the lifeblood of her trade, not just drink, but sustenance. Safer than water, cheaper than wine, every drop meant coin, and coin meant survival. She brewed it herself, sometimes in the back room, sometimes in a small outbuilding behind the tavern, where the copper kettle hissed and steamed like a creature of its own. Barley from the fields, hops from a trader's cart, water drawn by hand. Nothing wasted, nothing trusted to chance. Food came next, coarse bread, stew thick with bone and root, salted pork hanging from the rafters. She'd trade leftovers to the butcher's boy for a better cut tomorrow. Every morsel was measured. Waste could ruin her. Thrift kept her afloat. Then there was the business of coin, and that was the trickiest brew of all. Every night she'd count her earnings in a small back room by the light of a single candle. Her rough fingers would smooth each coin flat on the table, her eyes sharp as a hawk's. She knew every regular by name, every tab owed, every debt left unpaid. Taxes came often, men in black cloaks with ledgers and stamps, pretending at fairness. She knew how to smile, how to nod, and how to keep one barrel in sight and two out of it. In her world, survival was equal parts honesty and clever deceit. Too much of one, and you starved. Too much of the other, and you hanged. Many taverns of the time were run by women like her, widows, wives, daughters who'd outlived or outworked the men who once claimed the deed. Society called them keepers, but that word was small for what they did. They were brewers, merchants, accountants, mediators, even healers when fights turned bloody.
They fed travelers, housed soldiers, heard the secrets of kings and criminals alike. And yet history barely whispered their names. One night, she nearly lost everything. The story goes that the lawmen came after curfew, demanding unpaid ale tax, accusing her of selling drink to undesirable men. She had 2 barrels hidden in the cellar, untaxed, newly brewed. Her pulse quickened as they stormed through the door, boots striking the floor like drums of doom. But she played her part. With a calm voice and a kind smile, she poured them a drink. From the legal barrel, of course. They drank, laughed, and left. They never saw the cellar hatch beneath the table, nor the quiet pride in her eyes as she locked the door behind them. That night, when the last candle died, she stood alone by the fire, hands on her hips, the smell of ale and smoke thick in the air. She'd beaten the law, not with strength, but with cunning. And as the coals faded, she smiled faintly. Tomorrow she'd start again. Another brew, another night, another battle survived.
The tavern lies still now. The laughter has long since ebbed away, carried off by the chill wind that seeps through the cracks of the timbered walls. Only the faint crackle of a dying hearth remains, that soft hiss and sigh of embers fading into the quiet dark. Our woman stands alone by the fire, her figure outlined in amber light. Her back is straight, though her body aches from the day's labor, from the endless pouring, lifting, listening. The smell of smoke clings to her skin. The faint tang of ale lingers in the air like memory itself. She looks down at her hands, broad, strong, scarred by years of work. Each line etched into her palms is a story of coins counted, mugs scrubbed, fires stoked, and hearts steadied. These are not the delicate hands of a lady born to silk and softness. They are the hands that held a whole corner of the world together, the kind that built nations in silence, one pint at a time. She moves slowly, dousing the lamps. The tavern fades to shadows and shapes, until the only light left is the faintest orange pulse from the hearth. She leans against the counter, her eyes half closed, listening to the wooden beams settle above her. The quiet feels heavy, not lonely, but earned. In the solitude, she lets her thoughts drift. To the sailors who sung her songs, the soldiers who left their wages in her cups, the weary wives who found her laughter softer than their own homes. For a moment, she wonders if history will remember women like her, those who brewed the drink, mended the chairs, and soothed the tempers that might have otherwise torn the world apart. The answer comes in silence, and in that silence, a knowing smile. No, perhaps their names won't fill the books, but their warmth, their defiance, their steady rhythm of life will live in the bones of every tavern that ever was and ever will be. She turns one last time to the hearth, whispering, "Tomorrow we begin again." And with that, she lifts the heavy latch, stepping into the misty pre-dawn. A sliver of light touches her face, cold, silver, and clean. The world outside is vast and still asleep, yet she walks forward as though she carries the sun in her chest, because she does. The fire that burns in her heart is the same that will light the tavern again, the same that will feed laughter, trade, love, and rebellion, the same that built the age she lived in.